everybody. It's Miss Jen, and it is time for a minute to skim it. Your, look into the books that are coming out tomorrow morning at local comic shops everywhere. There is a ton of books. Like, I'm pretty sure that all of this nerdy knowledge is going to leak out my ears. I read 19 books. 19 books. That's some kind of crazy amount to try to remember everything that happened. And there are so many good, important books that are coming out this week. And another heads up that the Absolute book reprint has continued, which makes our customers very, very happy because they've already gone through and reprinted everything there was for Absolute Batman, for Absolute Superman, Wonder Woman, and they're going to continue on so that they can have everything for you. I think Martian Manhunter came out last week. So make sure you head to your local comic shop this week if you're trying to fill in some holes in those books as you're waiting for volume ones for the Absolute Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter, which I can't imagine how many copies of Martian Manhunter is going to sell when that thing drops. Man, oh man, I'm expecting some chaos for that week. I don't think I've talked to a single person. I've talked to one person who wasn't into Martian Manhunter, the new Absolute one, and it's mostly their pushback to me was that they couldn't get over the art, and that's okay. That's a taste level I can't fix. It's like you either like that art or you don't like the art, but the art is a character in the book. Oh, that's gonna be loud. I'm gonna turn that down. So, if you have any questions, please do talk to me in the comments. I can see them, even though I have glasses and I have to go look at them like this because that's where my line of sight is. I see that Nick's here and Unknown's here, and I think I saw Kenneth. I really do appreciate you guys coming. You give me fire, as they say. All right, let's get after it. All right, excellent. So I think I've explained what the Age of Revelation is fairly well, but in case you haven't been in on the discussion, because this is the kind of the interesting thing, right? There's two gigantic events that are happening coming up. There's DC KO from DC, and they've done a really good job of explaining what is going on there, or I feel like they've done a really good job. And then they've got Age of Revelation, which I think almost is like low-key secrets. Hey, thank you. Low-key secretive about what's going on, but I think it just wasn't out there as broadly as the DC line is. So I'm going to try to get you guys hooked up in a way that you go like, why do I want to read this? Why does it matter? I had the true joy this morning of someone came in and said, I want to get into the X-Men. Where do I go with the X-Men to get in and excited about it? So no one wants to be told that you have to like get back to, X-Men #1 and Kenny X-Men #1, 1963. That's too much. That's going way too far back, right? You want to hand people books that are kind of what they're seeing now. So I have recently been handing people Powers of 10 House of X, because Hickman's universe is so rich and it is impacting everything that's going on. So if you like big through lines and you read way back when they did Age of Apocalypse and you were like, that was a really awesome storyline, and you want to see how, if all that converged, if there was implications for all of that, then this is the storyline that's happening right now. So it does. This is a storyline that comes straight out of the Krakoa era, and puts together the characters of Apocalypse, but more importantly, you can kind of see their little faces up there. The one on the left-hand side is Apocalypse, and Revelation is his son. That's they're kind of in the yellow. This kind of gives you more of an idea of what's been going on, although they've done already an alpha copy and then another tie-in last week. So what you need to know from those two books is that we've kind of jumped ahead, I think a decade, I think is what they said. And in that time, Revelation has kind of like had a huge impact. You actually get to see what it looks like here in this book, where the Earth does not look like it once did. So what's happening is you've got mutants saying that Revelation is kind of making Earth kind of like a mutant paradise, and some of them are like they're down with whatever he's doing. But there's another whole group. They're like, there is something really rotten that's happening here. This is not a good thing, because he's using specific, very terrible methods, which you might expect from someone who's the son of Apocalypse. Because Apocalypse is godlike, as you've seen in many godlike characters in Marvel and DC, they don't have any real empathy for the human race. So they can run roughshod over all of those characters and not care. In this one, you see that there is a big disconnect. There's some groups that have separated them out. You've got Magneto and Scott Summers and Beast and some others working all together to try to kind of make their own little underground to fight. And it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. I've never been a fan of Scott Summers, and you guys know that, but this version is kind of boss. He cannot stop himself from leadership ability. They make kind of light of that in this, where he's been out, and when they bring him to, he's like immediately asking for sit rep, right? He's just he didn't even know where he is or what the situation is. He's like, I'm going to take control, which is kind of fun. You also see Psylocke in here, and you get to see the wife of Revelation, who looks really cool. The art style in this book is very neat and gritty. I can't even look to see who was the artist, but it looks Stegman. Man, is Stegman doing really rough, Stegman. It reminds me a little bit of Daniel Warren Johnson with that kind of like extra wide line inking. So anyway, this is really good. Very important for the ongoing storyline for Age of Revelation. I would say don't miss this, because there's some really big beats in the story that you're going to want to have. Venom 250 is a giant, thick book. And it's written by Al Ewing, so it's a really great book, but I will have to give you some catch up for this. And I'm only going to give you a small synopsis, because there's a lot going on in this book. So when they did the all new Venom, I think was what it was called, where this series kind of like, this is legacy running, I think, at 250. But when they were doing it, they did the new relaunch. They kind of like did like this long storyline, or a fairly long storyline, in which they were like, who is Venom? Because we knew it wasn't on Eddie anymore, because he's a symbiote. The symbiote himself had been kind of by himself for a while. That series started with them all being in a courtroom, and there's like this dark moment, and then all of a sudden somebody has a symbiote on them, but they said, oh, it has to have been somebody that was in that room. Well, they drew that storyline out, and I think it's been long enough that you should be able to know who is wearing the Venom symbiote. It's Mary Jane. So, surprise. You'll probably learn that forever ago, and I'm not spoiling anything for you, I hope. So, things you need to know if you have never read any Venom is that their home world is called Clintar, and the ruler of that is basically the king of all of the symbiotes is Null, and there he is on the front cover. He's very scary. There's been bunches of storylines with him struggling for power, and this one's interesting because it actually introduces a character that is coming from, I don't know where the character is coming from, honestly. It looks like a space creature, and he is on the run trying to escape and or come to Earth and try to do something about it. But those storylines are interspersed. Mary Jane's trying to figure out how to, I don't want to say get rid of the symbiote, because it's clear to her that the symbiote still has the crush for Eddie. And I don't know, that's going to get all kinds of difficult and interesting. But this is a great, like almost double-sized book that gets us to the end and like a really big cliffhanger regarding the King Null there. I'm going to straight up tell you, I am not 100% certain what I read in Spirits of Violence, except for they have every spirit that has ever been part of the Ghost Rider universe, all in this issue. So it has all of the humans that you're used to seeing, and the Helverine, and gosh, there's some extra characters even that I was like, oh wow, this is really cool. But the story is kind of like, because it has so many characters in it, I'm thinking to myself, maybe the previous series of when it was just Spirit of Violence or just Ghost Rider may have something to do with where they are right now. The art is really nice in this book. That I cannot fault at all. Hey, Michael. But I will tell you that I think it's really, truly my weakness. I understand who the characters are. I understand what the penance stare is. They do a good job of describing how the Ghost Rider is passed and how, why the Helverine is so powerful in regard to that power. So you guys that have always have to have deep lore in Ghost Rider, I think this will be a way more meaningful book for you. It might be a good place to jump in if you don't know anything about any of the characters, because so many of them are part of the story. You just have to read it slower than having to read it really quickly for a review show. As I tried to cram all 19 into, I have an hour and a half to read. So this is your opportunity to jump. It's a good place to jump in, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a good jump in spot, but take your time with it and kind of get to know the characters better and enjoy the book. Spider-Man Noir. Okay. So I'm so used to the Spider-Man Noir that was presented in I think it's Across the Spider-Verse. No, Into the Spider-Verse, sorry. The Nick Cage version. And in my brain, and I don't know, you guys could tell me this, is the person that's inside the Spider-Man Noir costume not Peter Parker? Because it's Peter Parker in this version. I always assumed it was somebody completely else. Like in Into the Spider-Verse, is there's a Miles Morales, and there's all the other the Spider-Man 2099 characters, Miguel. So anyway, it's neither here nor there, because this is a really neat, it's obviously its own universe, because Spider-Man Noir is not from ours. He is a really good, like you would expect a crime noir detective, but also with the Parker luck. So when we meet him, he is fighting the Scorpion Gang. I think I'm right about that. I think it's the Scorpion Gang. And in his kind of narration, he's got some really funny one-liners. He still has all the snappiness you would expect from a Pete Spider-Man, by the way. He is also thinking to himself, I haven't paid my house rent, and I've been evicted, and I just got my eviction notice to even my office, and I don't really know what I'm going to do about that. So he's still a Parker. Yeah, he is. Got that Parker luck. So a lot of the book is that part, him thinking about that, and having this fight with the Scorpion Gang, which so funny. When he first shows up, he's like, you know what? She's got guns. They've got guns. He's like, you know what? Let's just all agree. We'll put down our guns and let's just have a fist fight instead. If you guys are down for that, they're not going to do that. They're bad guys. So that pay attention to everything that happens there. It looks like it's just a throwaway battle of whatever. But you find out that he's broken up with MJ and his in dialogue and some other just stuff. You get to see what his relationship is with Aunt May in this universe, and it's kind of okay, that's interesting. And then Gwen shows up. He's never met Gwen before. She just shows up as the femme fatale in his office saying, I need your help to solve my dad's death. And they do a really great job with that part of the story. It's awesome. I'm super excited to read what happens next. I'm sure everyone likes Spider-Man Noir. Did anyone not like that character from the movies? I don't know. But anyway, jump in. This all the Spider-Man noir stuff tends to sell out pretty quickly whenever they do a series. They don't ever give them a long series, just little short ones, which is fine by me. Great stuff. I know, right? I'm so glad they got him to do it. So glad. All right, so I actually kept that book out because there are a bunch of stories in it. I did not know when I picked it up. It's a big prestige format book. It's a ton of pages, a bunch of different creators and a bunch of different stories. It looks like it's all Zatanna, but just be aware. Every single season, DC puts together a cool anthology. And this is the one for the spooky season. Obviously, it includes a bunch of spooky characters. Let me give you the rundown so you don't miss out. If you like Zatanna, that's where it leads out. That's the first story. The art is by John McCrae. And then there's a Batman story called Ouroboros. Then Plastic Man. And that is written by Daniel Warren Johnson, but different art. Then there's a Warlord story written by Alex Gaylor. There's a Demon story written by Kevin Scott, which I quite enjoy, but it's a very interesting art style. It's art and color by Don Aguilo, which I had never seen the art for before. And then I really liked also the art style. The one I actually read in its entirety is a Swamp Thing and Constantine story, which I love those characters a lot. It says, "What a horrible night to have a curse," in which the lead into the storyline is that when you first see John, Swamp Thing is talking to him, and John has got big cuts on his chest. And they're talking about the fact that he knows that he's been scratched by a wolf and knows what's coming. So, and then there's a Raven story called The Trick or Theater of Gladstone Street. And last one is an ambush bug story. It's called The Haunted Comic. So there is a ton of stuff. And of course, it's a bunch of different artists. So you can enjoy it. I think that these are always a great place to just buy and get to know some of those characters. Hey, Don! So think about picking this one up. I know sometimes people skip ones that are like the seasonal ones, but this one is, I think, well worth the money and fun. Okay, some important stuff to read this week. There are two big tie-ins to DCKO. This one ties in directly to, I think it was last week or week before last, we had two books. I think it was last week. Two books that were in the DC universe that also said they were preludes to DCKO. And in the end of both of those two books, one was Justice League Unlimited, number, I think, 10. And the other one, I'm going to fail at remembering which one the other one was. But at the end, the very last page, you get to see essentially what is this opening cover here, in which you have Superman show up with Booster Gold. Okay? So what you're seeing in these issues is them setting the stage to understand what DCKO is going to be. It's actually shaking out to be even cooler and more awesome than I had previously understood, even though Snyder is kind of given us an idea of what the overall storyline is going to be. He did not prepare me for all the awesomeness for the lead-in. This one deals specifically with, they go back to kind of Krypton before it gets destroyed. And you have two girls that are just kind of exploring the planet and find their way kind of into the lower caverns and lower caverns. And that is kind of they do a little part of that story and then something else and then go back to that story. And it kind of ties it all in at the end. They actually find older and older things that are part of their culture and something very important in the lowest cavern that has a big Omega symbol on the door. So definitely want to have it for that. But interspersed with it is what happens when Superman shows up with Booster Gold and them trying to explain what's going on. And also has a big tie-in to this character that they also kind of showed us in one of those other two books. And it's the Time, what's his name? Time something. You know what? When people have names you're not used to. Time Trapper or something like that. Time Trapper, woo! So anyway, and also finds them kind of like running away a little bit through time. But as you see from the cover there, you have Flash show up and be like, I'm coming too. And they're like, well, I guess you're trapped in this with this right now. So really important. You get to see something that's going to be, I think, key to the next part of the storyline. This is awesome. For fans of things like Runaways, Gotham Academy, Stranger Academy, Wednesday, anything that has to do with awkward characters that might have a little bit of extra something to them, little powers or whatever, all going to school. Everyone is as awkward as you would expect in a book about characters that are young. I don't know if you had awkward days during school, but I know I did. This one follows the character that's on the front here. Her name is Olive. She, as you find out through the story, was rescued by Batman. And then he's taken her on as a ward, but of course he can't like have her stay at the house. That's all full of Robins. But she gets sent to Gotham Academy. And everything is interesting because a lot of the kids that are there are very rich. And of course, she feels very much out of water because she, I think, has one set of clothes. She definitely only has one pair of shoes. And her roommate's not helpful in that regard. And she ends up kind of meeting someone that gives her kind of an anchor. But the important part of the story, I think, is the story about her mom, who Batman rescues her from. But I think it's more complex than being rescued from her mom. I think there's going to be some really cool revelations about that. Because toward the end of the book, she gets an invitation because her mom is at the insane asylum. And she has a very limited, visitation for her. And I don't know how that's going to go either. So great start. Okay, Batman #2. I sure hope you guys got a copy of Batman #1 because it was awesome. It sold out in our city pretty quickly. We ordered really, really deeply for this book. I think all I have left is the logo version, which I thought we would never sell out of all of we had like a long box or a short box still of all the different covers. And it didn't matter. We're down to like one copy of the #1 out there. So the introduction to Batman is very interesting. We see a little bit of his interaction with the Robins that are at his house. And that's very lovely. It is very much a mentor and student situation, as well as being like, they're kids. So, and also they have this big story arc where he has to battle Killer Croc, but it doesn't turn out the way it normally does, whether, Killer Croc is very evil or whatever. And it's all about the hunting him down and doing him in. This one, it feels like they've had some kind of other relationship in which it seems like a much kinder end, which I really liked the way that mood and tone worked for that first book. In this one, we get to see some sweet moments as Batman teaches, I think that's Tim. I'm so bad at all the Robin names when they're wearing their outfit. Teaching him how to drive stick. He really wants to drive the Batmobile, but he's like, nope, you gotta learn how to drive stick first. And you find out later why, because of how many gears there are in the actual Batmobile, which is helpful because this jumps back and forth between him being one age and when he actually starts to fight crime with him. All the art is really amazing like this, and I think you'll really like Batman. If you have never joined a Batman storyline, this one's a great place to start. This one's Tim. Okay, thank you. Thank goodness. I think it was I was like, I know it's not one of the others. Okay. Absolute Superman. Oh my goodness. There are 2 absolute storylines this week. This one is important because it wraps completely up the first story arc. It's very interesting because probably this is number 12, so you guys have probably figured this out. So this Superman actually was around for the actual destruction of Krypton. And in him leaving the planet, everyone else got destroyed. All the other ships got destroyed. But the ship that he was on also kind of gets destroyed, but it kind of, instead of them just all blowing up in the atmosphere, it actually kind of like joins his body. So his cool cape is actually the AI that was built in the ship by Cal's dad. And so that's really special. Now, this kind of has a whole bunch of like internal dialogue between them. As Cal's kind of mad, basically says he needs some time out. And this is kind of neat because you also get to see, you know, how you have the Fortress of Solitude for the main universe. Superman, you get to see what that looks like in regard to this character and this universe, which is so cool. And then also you get to see what this universe's Ra's al Ghul looks like. And I think you can see he's a boss. He looks awesome. All right. 100%, million%. I can't tell you any stronger. You have to go and get this book this week. It's like one of those things I think people are going to be like, oh, I don't need that because it's not from the main storyline. But this is big time important to what's happening next, because it doesn't say on there that it's lead into TK or DCKO. But what is happening in this story is so important. I can't even explain to you. How can I tell you what's in this book without ruining what's in this book? Oh, okay. So there hasn't been a lot of focus in the main books in the universe of bad guys for Absolute. This totally fixes this. It's mostly a big meeting between characters, figuring out, do they need each other and how they need each other and what their goals are in that regard. I'm going to make sure that I'm not like telling too much here. Hold on. I'm going to make sure that I read this. Yeah, and it does really and truly tell you how violent and how far they will go. There is an introduction to a new hero in here. They do show, I don't remember his first name, Queen, who is the Green Arrow. And he's a little, Oliver, thank you, Oliver Queen. He's a little bit different than, of course, his main universe counterpart. But he's in the way of what they want to do. We'll just say that. So my reaction when I finished the book was to message my entire team and say, you have to read it right now. I think it's important for us to be able to like hand sell it tomorrow to people so they don't miss it. Because like I said, I have a feeling what's going to happen is that people are going to go to the LCS tomorrow and get a bunch of books and be like, oh, this is just its own little storyline and I don't really need it. But I'm telling you, if you miss it, you're going to be sad. It's going to be a big sellout tomorrow. Excellent. Can't wait for you to read it. Rook Exodus. This is after a long hiatus for Rook Exodus. People have been really chomping at the bit. This one is really cool because it does do a bunch of like re-upping the storyline so you understand what's going on. So really what it tells us again is that sometime in the past, humanity has wrecked its own planet, so they needed to find somewhere else to go. So they made Exodus, and the promise was it would be a whole new world, right, for people to go to escape to. So in that way, they made kind of a normal world. But they also had local creatures that were there, and they needed to be able to control them. So they actually have a world engine, and they have like people that are wearers of specific masks, and those tie them in mentally to like a whole classification of animals. Like Rook, who is the main character, his helmet allows him to tie into all Rook-like birds, like crows and ravens, etc. And they communicate with each other pretty well. And it's not like I wouldn't say he controls them. They're symbiotic in that way. But the problem is that the world did not work. It broke. The world engine broke. And also there is one or more of the other helmet wearers, which we slowly get to see them one by one through the series. We keep on getting introduced to them, and we're like, oh my gosh. So at least one of them as a main character has kind of been like, I'm going to go and kill all the rest of the mask wearers and take over their power over their creatures, with the idea of taking over all of Exodus. So that has been what the first arc was mostly about. And this one is a really good start to the second arc, as Rook is trying to find very specific helmet wearers because he needs them for the finding of the world engine to try to restart it and fix everything. Because they're, the main good guys, their purpose is to try to make everything right again. Because the way it's described is that like all the people that came to populate Exodus then had to leave because everything broke down. And they were promised to have all of the workers and caretakers, which are these guys, they were going to come back for them, but they did not. So this is great. I hope I gave you everything you need to know to jump in. Even if you didn't read any of the other ones, you can jump in here. Yeah, I know, right? The art is fantastic. Okay, if you don't understand what the Department of Truth is, Department of Truth has got a big, long run. It is an amazing series. This one's called Zero, but I'll get you caught up. So the Department of Truth exists because the way that this universe works is if enough people believe in a thing, they're usually conspiracy driven, then it becomes true. And some of those things are very dangerous for us and for anyone that's in charge. And so the Department of Truth exists to stop some of those things from happening. And as the series has gone through, it's tackled big chunks of things like Sasquatches. It's talked about Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. And all of those have been really great. This goes back to kind of the basic premise of the series, in which there are very simple things that it's trying to keep from happening. And this one specifically, the idea was planted that there are children being held underneath this pizza parlor. So think very scary pizza parlor a la Five Nights at Freddy's, and a very spooky kind of serial killer feel. Even the guy they send to go and find it seems wackadoo. So this is pretty spooky. It's perfect for this time of year. And the art is spectacular as always. So if you have never read anything Department of Truth, you can jump in here. You know everything you need to know from me. And I highly recommend going and getting all the graphic novels for it, because I have not ever had anybody that I've given it to not like it, because who doesn't like a good conspiracy? Cold Slither. I had no idea what I was getting into. All I knew is I picked up this book from Tim Seeley. And it is Image Skybound, which you should know better. And there's some hints on this front cover. I'm sure you guys knew this. I don't need to tell you, but I didn't know this when I started reading it. It actually has kind of a cool logo hint on it. Did you know this is tied to G.I. Joe? It totally is. So the premise of this is that at some point in G.I. Joe past, there was a band that was formed, and the lyrics that are part of their most popular song, Cold Slither, had a subliminal message to it in which everybody that really dug it then also dug Cobra. So in this book, that is a big long storyline arc, and it's about them. Like, that was a long time ago, and now they're reintroducing the members that were part of Cold Slither and where they are now today. You serious unknown. Oh my gosh, there's an actual YouTube. Put a link. And then, man, I wish we could play it because that would be so cool. But there's a huge twist in the storyline also. I got into it, I'm not going to lie, about a third of the way into it, I was like going, I don't know, can I stop reading it right now? Because it kind of, I get it. I don't know if I need to read all this, but I'm so glad I did not stop, because there is a big thing that happens. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, it's awesome. And if you watch the music video, I cannot guarantee you do not start saying Hail Hydra. Oh my gosh, this is a really long book, this one. I like these kinds of books because they play on things that are real. It was from Hasbro Pulse. Okay, of course it was. Play on stuff that is based on some kind of reality, but you're not really sure if it's like made up reality. I want to go research after this to see if this actually exists, because at the very back of the book, it actually has, like, we have the pages of, like, written down text that are like going, here's why I wrote this book, and who the real people are and all that stuff. I'm like going, is this part of the book though? Is this part of the pretendness of the book? Trying to make it seem even more real. So this book is about, let me see if I got this right. I'm not getting it mixed up with something else. No, I might be. Who knows? Okay. This one is about this guy who gets approached by a famous author. Okay. And the famous author, sorry, I'll set it up also to say that he's got a fiance who's crazy about him and wants to be his agent. And when this said famous author contacts him, the whole first part of it is about him, like her kind of like, all right, let's go. I don't know how to negotiate, things. You're going to be famous. You're going to make all this money. And he was like, we don't even know what this is about, girl. But you find out during all of this storytelling, through all this storytelling, is he's not a great guy. He's like, he's got a text from he's an actual teacher. He's got a text from one of his students saying, I'll see you later for like office time. She's like got her shirt up. And so he's not a great individual, and you probably shouldn't be married to him. So you're supposed to dislike this guy right away, and that's good. And so the pitch for this is that the famous author, when she has the meeting with him, basically says that I know that my reputation is tarnished, and you're not a great writer, but you are an expert on this author that I bought the rights to his estate, and so I can now write books in the series that he had previously written. But I need you to be the face of everything. I'll write. You're going to do whatever I tell you. I'm going to give you lots of money, but you got to suck it up, buttercup. And so it's just like, you can just see that this is like a train wreck of all train wrecks. It's a lot about the relationship between him and his daughter, who is not related to his fiance. And they have a very difficult relationship. This is probably a double-sized book. I think I'm pretty sure it's double-sized. And this is Barbieri writing, which, and the other thing is that there's some kind of weird black ooze coming out of random books. So I don't know what that's about. That obviously does not get resolved in this book at all. So it's spooky, but not gross spooky. I won't do any links. Oh well. Oh, skipping around. Starship Godzilla. I'd forgotten that I got to read this one at, I think they gave us a copy of it at Comics Pro. And I remember it being a super fun idea. So this is Starship Godzilla, kind of a little more fun and cartoony than the rest of the Godzilla stuff that's been coming out from IDW. The rest of that's been kind of a lot more mature and serious. And this one is more, well, I guess it does get kind of serious at the end. There's some damage. This is about a group of spacefaring, I don't know, they're space thieves, I guess. They get sent to go and collect these kaiju eggs from, I think it's a space station or a planet or somewhere. And you find out that they are flying around in Starship Godzilla. So it's a big starship that looks like Godzilla. And the story is really about what's in the eggs and how that works out for them and who's willing to double cross who. Bought this just for a New Hope homage. There you go. Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. I'm definitely going to read all the Godzilla books from the new line. I really like the Kaisei run. So I'm down for pretty much, I think there's like 3 or 4 titles right now that are Godzilla, but not traditional Godzilla, that I think is really refreshing look to be telling stories in the Godzilla universe that aren't just like, giant kaiju stepping on towns. All right, this is the second series for Zach Kaplan, who writes really amazing things. He works out of LA, so I always think of his stuff as being just easily converted into like TV shows or movies, because I'm sure that's because of where he's working out of. I'm sure that's the push, right? Find me something I can make a movie out of or a TV show out of, and that's fine. I think most comic books are perfectly suited for such things. This is the second series in the Kill All Immortals storyline. The first arc, you find out that the immortals that are around, they at the end somehow figure out a way to destroy the source of their immortality, which is a tree, I think a tree in a special immortal garden. And that's kind of nice. It allows them to kind of go and have fairly normal lives, which is what they were hoping for. But the problem is this is the second series, and you find out that despite the fact that they thought they were the only immortals, it's not true. So the family business that they've had is under hostile takeover by these other people that are actually immortal now. They have to figure out amongst themselves, how in the world are they going to fight against immortals when they are not? They still have all their skills. They are super skilled individuals. But where do we go from here? It is pretty bloody, and it's just my speed. I like this book. Big Rig. I know what you guys are thinking. Why am I reading Big Rig? Number 3. Well, this is why. I love the premise. This is a book series that was it's a conjunction work with Post Malone. He's the idea man, and Damien, I think, Wassel is the writer. There's 2 brothers at Vault, and sometimes I get mixed up which one's doing which, but the Wassels are all amazing. So the premise was, when we first saw issue number 1, was that there was a huge amount of demons that start attacking Earth, and then they summon a champion who is from the Order of the 6 Petals, I think, like flower petals. Think like Knights Templar. Matter of fact, I think they actually mentioned that in this book. And out of them calling for a champion or help, drops from the sky a big rig. I know that sounds really hokey, but think about it. A very supernatural big rig that has just, they keep on showing more things that it can do or might do. They keep teasing it. And they do such a good job of the art. The main character here, he kind of like tried to leave his calling as a Knights Templar. And you see in this book that because of that, that's how he got his upside down crosses and whatever's on his head. And that's because they saw him as being like a traitor. And so that's what his payment was. But he got called back again, obviously, to be what they call, I think it's just called the driver. I don't know what his name is. But there are some big bad demony creatures that they fight in this one. He has riding along with them a couple of, I'm going to call them sisters. I don't know if they're actual sisters or not. And I think there's one other person that's kind of like part of his crew that rides in the actual big rig with him. And there is some big stuff that happens in that regard. And there is another big bad that they talk about in this book, and you get to see for the first time toward the end of the book. And I was not prepared for this creature design, but it is hecka awesome. The art continues to be spectacular in this. It's exactly like the front cover. It's mostly black and white, and then they throw in some red where it really needs it. And it's perfect. It's like, I want to not like a book that's called Big Rig about a guy who fights demons in his semi-truck, but I'm down for however many issues they're making. Hard pass for a double size? It gives you extra stuff. Roots of Madness. Stephanie Williams is known for bringing the character Nubia to life and for really kind of like renewing that part of the universe for DC. And this is her very own work at Ignition Press, which is a fairly new company. That means the book's not going to last. I don't know about that. It's got a lot of money behind it. So Roots of Madness is really cool. It's about this family that they quite obviously in their lineage lived maybe on plantations and had to keep a lot of their family stuff secret about like using herbs and how to put them together for like different healings and stuff. And they have a book that's been passed down from the grandmother. And the first part of this book is mostly this girl who thinks she's ready for the knowledge of the things that are in the book, but mom knows that's not quite true. And you get to see some development there, but then kind of jumps forward to when she's an adult and you find out what happened to members of her family. But she now has her own shop that has kind of like very natural remedies to things, and has like people kind of like word of mouth find her. But the book that has been missing for many years shows back up. In the early story of this, there's something that is mentioned in the book that is quite obviously potentially very like is a cautionary tale. You should not try to use this thing or go find this king. It's something very bad. You're not ready for it. No one was ready for it. So, and then someone shows up in her life. So really great story. Great start. Shoot! All right. This is the kind of book that I really like the way it starts. I don't know the writer. It's Wilmalad Willivio, which is a very beautiful name. So this one is essentially exactly what it says. It's Lovecraft convalescing in his last days with late stage, I think, stomach cancer. And he is not quite all there. They've given him a bunch of morphine. So he very clearly doesn't have, it's not a part of his life where no one really knows who he is yet. So, like the nurse and the doctor and stuff talk about like his stuff that's underneath his bed that they could just throw it away when he dies because no one's going to want it. It's like books and things. Yeah, sorry, ship. And what's interesting about this is someone is waiting in the hallway, which is a younger man who, as far as they can tell, I think that they mentioned that he has a sister that lives far enough away that if she's going to come say goodbye, she's going to have to make it there quickly. But this guy who I think he says he's a student comes in and starts talking to him about things in a way that he puts into the idea of the storyline that things that Lovecraft has written about, not in his normal like Cthulhu-ish kind of books, but he has in the past written about things like astronomy, and that there were things that did come to pass that seem like he foresaw it. And Lovecraft basically says absolutely not, but this student's convinced. So what's so heartbreaking about the book is the way that it opens up is so beautiful. It's like poetry written, where it talks about when one gets to kind of like the twilight years of their life, people spend more time sleeping because it's a way to escape the pains and aches of life. And that part kind of ties in to the end of the book very beautifully. Oh, Bright's disease. Oh, okay. So this one is so beautiful. The art style is exactly like this. I think it's watercolor. And I'm definitely going to be picking up ones beyond this. Not because I'm a fan of Lovecraft, which I'm really not. I've never read, I don't think, any of his things. But I'm a fan of storytelling about him. So consider putting this on your list of, hey, I also need to pick up something that's not Marvel or DC this week, even though I know there's a lot of it. We made it, and I remembered everything. Woo! I know it's difficult now because the Diamond site no longer has comicshoplocator.com, but you can still use Google. If you just put in comic shop near me, it will definitely bring up what's near you in your zip code. And Google should all be pretty current. So the hours of operation should be accurate, and the phone numbers and all those things. So use that until a new one gets, like a new actual just for comic books page gets made. I'm sure somebody's out there doing it. So it's easy to search, but don't try Comic Shop Locator because I think that's now the dead door. So don't try that one. Definitely do your job out there. Tell friends about what you're reading and what you like. I can tell on my end, there was a ton of people in the last month telling their friends about what they're reading. I have had so many new readers come specifically for things like Absolute, everything. Spam's trying to call me. He's always trying to get a date. That guy, I swear. So yeah, your word of mouth helps your LCS more than you could possibly know. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, Kenneth. I just like you being here. You being here gives me fire. I'm telling you right now. I see you all the time liking every single thing we put up. And I cannot tell you how thankful we are to have you here. You've been here since the very beginning. And we see you, man. We see you. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to Jay behind the scenes, making sure my millions of pictures that I asked him for were found. Sometimes I feel like I'm just asking for insurmountable amounts of pictures. So I appreciate you, man. All right, I'll see you guys next week. Bye.